Hi, I'm Corey Locke, Special Projects Editor with Xconomy. I'm here today with David Edwards of Harvard University, and we're here to talk about the future of food and eating. Thanks so much, David, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I was wondering if you could start by just telling us a little bit about your research.
Yeah, my background is actually applied math, and early on in drug delivery, I did a lot of work related to inhaled insulin and inhaled drugs and vaccines in the late 90s and early 2000s. And in the middle 2000s, became very interested, for reasons that we will perhaps talk about, in a different kind of health delivery, and particularly health delivery through sensory stimulation, particularly food, but not just food, and have been focused on developing new food forms and sensory environments to guide human health and wellness.
So what are you working on now? What's new?
Well, my latest project relates to scent. Since my early work in inhaled insulin, I've been very interested in delivering health and wellness through the air, and so the ultimate project for me is designing scent to condition human health and wellness, and particularly eating. As you may know, the last 15 years have been a remarkable period of biological advancement in the understanding of olfaction. And we understand now that olfactory receptors, which represent the largest subclass of the human genome, play a major role in many biological processes, of course, but also in human metabolism. And so as that has advanced, it's become clear that if we deliver scent in a wiser way than has been possible today, of course, scent, unlike light and sound, has not been digitized, and so it's still delivered with candles and perfumes and in ways that we've been using for literally thousands of years. There's a major opportunity for not only eating, but communication more generally. So I created a company called O-Notes a few years ago, and we're right now in a fascinating dialogue and partnership with Denny Ausiello at MGH and Ramnik Xavier at the Broad Institute, and looking into how we can use this new digital platform with frontier biological research related to the gut microbiome, olfactory receptors, and food cravings to interrogate olfactory receptors in the nose, either through sniffing, if you will, or orthonasal scent delivery, or retronasal scent delivery, which is actually flavor. The concept of flavor is really mostly a matter of stimulating the olfactory receptors through exhaling, actually. So we're looking into how to do that, how to deliver scent one way or the other, connected to a quantitative understanding of human phenotype, so that we can deliver scent smartly and help guide food behavior and human wellness more generally.
So we're talking about engineering scents into foods to make them more palatable for people, healthier food?
In a way, we're talking about designing foods better, but not only food, also the receptacles in which we eat food and the environment in which we eat food. We understand now that food is more than the material that we place in our mouth, even though obviously scent plays a big role in the experience of that food, but also the sensory environment that conditions us prior to eating, during, when we eat, and after we eat. And so how do you design that environment? We know quite a bit about light and sound at this point and its effect on eating, but we're just starting to learn a lot about scent. And so the digitization of scent, which we've worked on and now accomplished here over the last few years, allows us to bring the kind of thinking that has been quite preponderant for the last years with regard to light and sound to scent for the purposes of controlling metabolism.
And you're also working on new kinds of food products, right, that are more sustainable?
Absolutely. So this general interest in the future of food obviously gets back to, well, where does food come from and how sustainable is it, and how adapted is it to our contemporary lives, and what happens when it's done, actually? What about the refuse of food? So we, over the last years, have developed a food platform with a company called Incredible Foods here in Boston. The company has a lead product called Perfectly Free, which is in thousands of stores here on the East Coast right now. It's missing the major food allergen, top 8 food allergens, and has been in stores for the last couple of years. We're coming out with a new food platform, which is based on fruit, any fruit in the form of a grape with an edible skin like a grape. And so it turns out that kids are not eating fruit anymore, largely because it's complicated and parents are worried about the skin. And so we can now make any, from a pineapple to a banana, in the form of a little grape, which is completely composed of fruit. And the skin, like a grape skin, is more than simply a nice, delicious coating, if you will. It's all natural, but it's also a barrier to gas and water transfer. And so we are launching this in Q1 of 2018, these perfectly free fruit bites. And in that context, just here in a few days, we're opening what's called the World Frontiers Forum. It's the first forum of its kind in partnership with MIT and Harvard, a number of other organizations, and presenting on Friday, actually, a food forum which is made with this technology, which tastes like a hot dog, it looks like a hot dog, but it's completely vegetable based, and it's wrapped in edible skins of mustard and relish.
Oh wow, that sounds great. So these little fruit pops and these veggie dogs, is it something that you can just throw in a kid's lunchbox?
Yeah, absolutely. So you
picnic
can
basket.
Yeah,
or
so
something?
this is one of the interesting things about the future of food. The future of food is partly, as we're saying, engineering and thinking about the environment, but it's also, well, how does the food get to us? And so it's retail, it's distribution, and it's a food system that works really well today, but it's based on practices that we understand now are not so sustainable. And so one of the ways that you can actually purchase and distribute these products is like you do or used to grapes. And so it's possible to grab these little fruit grapes and drop them into a little thermos and wash them when you get home and without packaging. But the reality is that they're selling right now in stores in boxes and with traditional labeling. And anyway, parents then place the fruit in the refrigerator and then can drop the fruit in their kids' lunchbox. And they're like grapes, they're good and delicious all day long.
Wow, that sounds interesting. So we've talked about kind of new kinds of food products and then new ways of kind of consuming and sensing the food. So how do the two kind of come together in your vision for the future of food and eating?
So I think what's happening, if we look 10 years, 20, 30 years in the future of food is the future of healthcare, is in a way the future of communication. I think that all of them are converging in a future of human wellness. I think in the future that our wearables and devices and things that we carry with us will be monitoring us in ways that we are delighted with, and that information is informing how we eat, and how we eat is guiding our health. I think that information is part of already today is part of a natural biological feedback system that our bodies have, but because of the really radical ways in which we've changed our environment over the last years for many, many really positive reasons, we now need to think much more coherently about how we eat and how it connects to these different healthcare and communication industries, really. So more specifically, my expectation is that, of course, work that we're doing, but many other companies here in Boston and around the United States and around the world are doing right now for finding new ways of generating food, whether it's from bioengineering or by re-engineering microbiome of plants, to ways in which we can eliminate or diminish plastic packaging, to these new kinds of food forms, for example, in possible foods, like our company Incredible Foods, but much exclusively focused on this notion of eliminating beef from the food chain. These companies are going to radically change how we eat for sure in the future, and as I say, I think that this advancement will be accompanying an advancement in wearables and in digital health that all kind of merge together.
Great. Do you see any kind of challenges or barriers to getting there?
Absolutely. There's partly, of course, technological, but I think honestly we're getting to a point where the bigger barriers relate to consumer behavior. We're moving outside of the regulatory environment where it was and is possible to impose a behavior given a medical prescription and a pharmaceutical product. But as we move into a consumer practice, we're counting on consumers adopting willingly, and not simply a small group, but a mass population adopting new behavior. And I think it will require engineers and scientists and companies and restaurants and all of us to listen well, actually, and to be adapting our innovations not only so that they work and they're sustainable, but that they're adoptable and embraced by people.
Okay. Well, that was all very interesting. I look forward to seeing how food and eating are going to change.
Thank you.